When I got my first real lead and closed a real lead from outside of the province, I felt like I had just been a caveman finding fire. Most people, they don't even start with YouTube. You can convince them to do reels and quick form social media, but it's just consistency. And with YouTube, it's literally just about getting started. And it does not have to be fancy.
Does the algorithm just send people to me, or are there other elements?
I'm at a stage now where YouTube has given me quite a bit of authority in my market. Basically, they see my follower count, it knows what I generally talk about, and so my videos are going to be a little bit easier for people to find. But when I was starting out, I was super into SEO, really using things like keywords everywhere, figuring out what people would click on, and I would do that after I filmed. The neighborhood tours are super simple. Anybody can start that literally today.
There's a quiet assumption in real estate that your business is limited by your zip code. If you're in a small market, you get small opportunities. If you're in a major metro market, you just wait for whoever shows up. But what if the real limitation isn't geography, it's visibility? Well, my guest today proves that your market isn't defined by where you stand, it's defined by where you show up. Tom Moore is a commercial real estate agent based in Halifax, Canada. With a background in the Canadian Coast Guard, the Canadian Army, he brings discipline, structure, and strategic thinking into his business. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of relying solely on local referrals or cold outreach, Tom built an inbound pipeline using YouTube, attracting relocation buyers and investors from outside his immediate market. So this episode isn't about going viral. It's about building authority beyond your borders. If you think your growth is capped by your city and your size, this conversation is going to challenge that assumption. I would like to welcome to the Icons of Real Estate podcast, Tom Moore. Tom, what's happening, my friend?
Thanks for having me, RK3. Just enjoying this beautiful Friday we got here. Snow's finally starting to melt up here in Canada. So looking forward to the interview.
I love it. So you're in Halifax. That's Nova Scotia. That's the northeastern side
You got
of
it.
Canada.
Yep, right kind of above Maine. So we stick out.
Yeah.
If you look at the map of North America, it looks like there's a little boot that hangs off the right-hand side, and we're smack dab pretty much in the middle of the edge of that boot. So very, very comparable climate to kind of New England. And
Okay, yeah. So that was going to be my next question. What's the average temperature up there like? Is it like Iceland, Greenland, or is it...
no hard for me to do that conversion.
Yeah.
Freezing here is, we call it 0 degrees, is when, the water freezes. In January, February, and March, we get a bit of snow, usually hovering around -5.
Yeah.
But then in the summertime, I mean, we're very fortunate to be in a province surrounded by beaches, and it gets 30 degrees here, which probably sounds cold to you, but it's still it's very warm.
Wow.
It's like Florida.
So when people think about beaches, though, they don't think Canada. They think the Caribbean. They think maybe Florida, Miami, somewhere. What are the beaches like in your area?
I mean, we've got a pretty wide range. They're very sandy. They're still pretty chilly. Most people will use wetsuits here up until July, late July, August, and September. You can swim without a wetsuit. Lots of surfing here, actually, just because we're out on the coast there. But they're very beautiful. We've got some that have those turquoise waters like you'd find in the Caribbean, but the second you touch the water, you realize it's not.
Okay. Well, listen, I've definitely got to get up there and visit, man. So plan on that. I'll look you up when I'm there.
For sure.
All right. So let's jump in and let's talk real estate a little bit. So a lot of agents, a lot of real estate investors, real estate salespeople, they tend to focus on their immediate market. As a matter of fact, when you go to real estate school or you do your pre-licensing, they tell you about marketing to your sphere. But you are a little bit outside of that. You're focused in the relocation space. Tell me a little bit about what got you focused there.
Yeah, so you mentioned in the intro, last year I switched to start doing a bit more commercial, but this YouTube channel that I set up was focus strictly on residential. I'm just at about 5 years now. So I got into real estate basically during COVID. And at that time, with kind of the world changing and everything, I needed a different way to reach people. So video was kind of on the rise. And I just so happened that one of my really good friends from when we were younger was getting into videography. And so we just basically decided that we were going to start a little YouTube channel, and it evolved into something that was bigger than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So when people hear about YouTube, they hear, "Oh yeah, you got to get on video, you got to do YouTube," but most agents are not thinking that it can be a place where you would get inbound leads. What are you doing to gain inbound leads on YouTube?
Well, I mean, you can see from my background that I don't do too much in terms of kind of the traditional, we call it the talking head YouTube. I do a lot of walking around with my camera in my city, and it's not super polished, but I think that authenticity for what I have found with my personal, I guess, persona has resonated with a lot of people. So I started off by doing a lot of neighborhood tours. And again, you mentioned I'm from Halifax. I grew up here, so I know kind of the ins and outs of our whole metro region. We've got a city of about hovering right around 550,000 people, I would say. And so I just started off by doing, at the start with my cameraman, where it was a bit more professional, neighborhood tours. And then it has since evolved into me literally just taking my camera out, doing the same thing, and kind of just talking off the cuff about what's going on around the city, neighborhood tours. I do, house tour videos, and it's really resonated with a lot of people from outside of the city and outside of the country. I'm starting to, well, I've moved quite a few Americans up here
Yeah.
over the past few years, a couple of Europeans. So yeah, it's worked quite well.
Yeah. I don't know if there's an obvious answer for this, but what is it about your videos that causes people to watch and say, "Hey, let me get closer to Tom," or maybe Tom is the person who can solve my problem here?
Well, I think that two sides of that. Again, a lot of these more polished YouTube content strategies from realtors are really pretty movie esque, right? I literally go out there. I have a VA who helps me edit. I'm not the most tech savvy person when it comes to the editing side of things. So I'll go out, I'll film myself talking about, lifestyle, house prices, where kind of geographically the area is, and a few other kind of local knowledge tips about that area. And then I'll also, while I'm out there, take B-roll on my camera. So for your viewers who may not know, that's just basically when you're listening to somebody talking and there's a screen or a video that plays over top of that to really
Yeah.
show off the neighborhood. It's very important to me that I give people the best understanding of that neighborhood that I'm touring that day. And then it's just the way that I talk about it. I try to give
Yeah.
little local tips that you maybe wouldn't read about, whether it's a cafe, a restaurant, or, a park, or even maybe if we're in a neighborhood that has, a nicer part and a not so nice part, I'll really point that out. And I think when you're authentic like that, people are going to resonate you. Not everybody will, but there's people that are going to resonate with what you're saying and how you're saying it.
Yeah. Can we talk about the mechanics of this just a little bit? I hear a lot of agents who say, yeah, they people tell me I need to be on YouTube, but they're not sure what to do next. How do you actually generate the leads? Is it just in the comments? How do you follow up with your leads so that you can do what you do?
Yeah, there's a few ways, like on Instagram or any of those social medias. I think that there's an element of people just follow you. They think, oh, you know what? Maybe one day I'll move there. They start following you. It turns into a hobby where they're watching you once a week. And then eventually they will go into the description in your YouTube video or wherever you have maybe they see it when it pops up when you're doing your video and send you an email, send you a text or something like that.
Mhm.
More recently, I have started to use some tools like Gamma, which is kind of an AI builder of various marketing material, quite frankly, and patching that with some ChatGPT to create guides, whether it's for buyers or sellers. In there, I'll put a little call to action. So I find that stuff works if you are smart about how you use it. You don't want to spam people with things, but when you are doing a video, well, you might want to have one call to action. Maybe in one video, if it's more buyer centric, you can plug the buyer guide. If it's more seller centric, you can plug the seller guide. And then maybe if it's just kind of a driving tour or something like that, you can say, hey, if you're thinking about making a move here or buying or selling or whatever it is, my contact is in the description below. Be sure to reach out to me through one of those methods. So overall, it's a bit of a mixed bag. But the main thing is that I think the most important thing is that I've been doing YouTube now for probably 3.5 years, and I've iterated it, right? It's like anything. You've got to start by filming. It's going to probably be not very good at the start. And then over time, you'll get better at the craft and get better at figuring out how people are going to want to reach you.
Yeah. So I talked in the beginning about commercial real estate being your jam or the place that you spend the majority of your time right now. But you also mentioned that you did do some residential. What are some of the differences between the two as far as YouTube is concerned?
The YouTube stuff. So, right now I've been in commercial for a year. I'm still doing quite a bit of residential. It's completely shifting business gears. It's a completely different industry. I have been wrapping my head around how to utilize YouTube for commercial real estate. It's much trickier. There's a few people that pull it off quite well, but not in the sense that you find in residential. I find that residential, you have a lot of personas in the YouTube space that are either coaches, they're agents themselves, they're house tour experts, whatever it may be. We're familiar with all of them. On the commercial side of things, it's quite a bit more, at least where I am, quite a bit more
Mhm.
guarded in terms of coaching. There's really, really a lack of resources for commercial agents getting started on a platform like YouTube. And then B, the physical showing of buildings. A lot of landlords where I am, they like to keep things kind of close to the chest, almost off market. We don't really have a traditional MLS for our commercial stuff up here. So this thought process that I have around that probably revolves around some leasing tours as well as some larger building tours to show to investors who may not be located here. But there's definitely an element in a few years for coaching, at least in Canada. There's a massive glut there. There's almost nobody doing it that I have found for coaching commercial and real estate.
Yeah. So let's jump back just a little bit here. So you've got this process that you walk through with, okay, yep, I'm going to go film neighborhood tours, etc., house tours, all the things for my channel here. What do you do after that? Because the question that a lot of agents or a lot of people ask is, okay, yep, so I put it on YouTube. Does the algorithm just send people to me? Or are there other elements? Are there other factors? Is there something else that you're doing once you have done your videos?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough at a stage now where YouTube has given me quite a bit of authority in my market. And what that means is that basically they see my follower account, it knows what I generally talk about. And so my videos are going to be a little bit easier for people to find. But when I was starting out, I was super into SEO, really using things like keywords everywhere, TubeBuddy, basically figuring out what people would click on. And I would do that after I film. So my process generally is now I will use ChatGPT, Manus AI to come up with a lot of bottom of funnel questions. The neighborhood tours are super simple. Anybody can start that literally today if you've lived in a city for longer than 3 years. But
Yeah.
when you get to a point where you're going after some of that SEO traffic, you're going after questions that people are asking, and you can come up with your titles that way. At that point, you've got your list, you've got your scripts, you know what you're generally going to talk about, and you go out and film those things. Get good B-roll. I think that's really, at least for the style that I do, if you're trying to attract people from other geographic locations, they're watching you to learn information, but they're also really watching you to learn about the city in a lot of cases and see the city. So it's important to provide that. After that, I upload all of my content to my editor. She puts it together. She's got a couple tools that she uses. I get that finished product back. And then I do stuff on the back end, looking again after keywords, even tags. AI is, as you know, has really changed the ability for somebody who's just starting out to
Yeah.
wrap their head around SEO and clickable titles, clickable thumbnails, things like this. So I really do think that there's an opportunity there for you to skip a lot of those stages just by sitting there and interacting with one of those AI platforms.
Let's dig in just a little bit, get even more granular. Is there an example that you can give me of a question that you discovered through your research that then really hit when you got it to the video portion?
Yeah, so a lot of this bottle of my funnel stuff, surprisingly enough, I started experimenting with it probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Neil Patel has a great program called Answer the Public, and you can kind of get questions from there. So I started doing some stuff surrounding Americans moving to Nova Scotia and also people from away looking to move to Nova Scotia. So it was a title along the lines of, how to buy a house in Nova Scotia from outside of the province or whatever. It was based on what people were typing, how do I buy a house in Nova Scotia type deal. And I walked them through that, and that video did quite well, got reached out to pretty significantly. But it's all about targeting when you're doing question content, as I like to call it, not neighborhood content, but question content. It's all about targeted questions that people want answered. And some
Yeah.
people like to use blogs. Some people like to just look at a 30-second reel, but YouTube is generally utilized as a search platform. So it's important to treat it as that. Just like you would write a blog, you would create a YouTube video surrounding that question. All the other filler in the background, so those neighborhood spotlights, market reports, house tours, that just gives them a chance once they get to that question video to click in on your channel and say, oh, he or she does this and this and this. And oh, I'm getting to know them a little bit better. Those question titles really are a way to just drive that instant traffic. And another tip that I often give people who are thinking about doing this, I don't know about in your city. I'm sure every city is a little different, but there's a lot of Facebook groups that
Yeah.
revolve around moving there from here. Or, like for instance, if I was in New York, I'm sure there'd be a Facebook group or two that was like moving from, Connecticut to New York. I guess that's pretty close, but,
Yeah.
this state to this city. When you're creating neighborhood content video, when you're creating these question videos, it's great content for those groups. And a lot of these groups have 10, 20,000 people in bigger cities. I'm sure it's way more. And they're looking for content like this. They're often asking questions to themselves or whatever, but it's a really easy way to reach a lot of people that are super interested in that type of content that you're using. And
Yeah.
once they are able to visit your channel, the goal is to have a little bit more built out so they know what it's about, so that it's not just all questions being answered, or maybe that is the way you want to go. But that, I guess, hopefully answers that question. I kind of ran
Yes, it
there.
does. So how do you know that it's working? Because a lot of people, they say, "Yep, I want to do a YouTube channel." They film a couple of videos, they get 20 views, and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm not getting Mr. Beast style views," and they give up or they're not consistent with it anymore. What signals to you that this decision, this YouTube thing, is working?
That is a good question. I think when you first start getting reached out to by people and you start putting dollar signs to the work you've been doing, if you know what I mean. Like when I got my first real lead and closed a real lead from outside of the province, I felt like I had just been a caveman finding fire.
Yeah.
Like so much in this and business in general, but real estate, consistency is key. And eventually somebody's going to reach out to you. And when you iterate, you constantly do things a little differently or try this or try that. I thoroughly encourage people to try that Facebook group idea. It worked wonders for launching my channel. When you're spending, if the ad spend out, or if the money in outweighs the money out by, a good portion, then you'll instantly realize that it's worth it. It's just really about getting to that first sale. And a lot of that is just, unfortunately, trying it week after week or whatever. Maybe it's bi-weekly for you, where you keep going, keep going, keep going. And then eventually you'll get a check. And then like everything, it snowballs and you start to get more. The big thing that was different for me too was my part of the country, we tend to have a lower price point than a lot of the rest of Canada.
Mhm.
So people were selling their, $2 million home, moving here, buying something that was just as good for $1 million, thinking they were, well, they had made a great financial decision, but because they were moving from away and they had these bigger pockets. It was a real niche that I was able to get into kind of on the luxury market when I was only a couple of years in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm assuming at this point that people are seeing some of your success with YouTube and they're probably asking you, "Hey, Tom, how did you do that?" What are some of the mistakes that you see people making as they come to you?
Not starting.
Yeah.
That's the number one mistake. They don't even start. Now, I think you have to pick a lane and kind of go for it. Some people are going to really like that long form content of YouTube, the evergreen style where it's up there forever. I just like when I was getting into YouTube, I was also doing a lot of TikTok, a lot of Instagram. I really liked the evergreen portion of YouTube where it's searchable stuff
Yeah.
that 2 years down the road, somebody could, look for that question and still find me. Whereas if you make a reel, it's 30 seconds. But for most people, they don't even start with YouTube. I find you can convince them to do reels and even just quick form social media, but it's just consistency. And with YouTube, it's literally just about getting started. And it does
Yeah.
not have to be fancy. Like you can go onto my channel, living in Halifax. Most some of the videos that I do that are the most popular with people that end up moving here are driving tours. And they are by
Mhm.
far, not by far, but they are low rank in terms of the product quality that I'm putting out there. And it's literally me just driving around the city talking. And I talk about, some construction projects here or prices in this neighborhood or what's around. And I do those. I edit them so they're not very well done, but they are the favorite videos of everybody who moves here. So just something as simple as that, where you get a little car, window stand, say, "Hey, it's Billy Bob in this market. Today we're going to be driving around this neighborhood," and you just point the camera forward, go for a drive, talk, and that's a good way to just really start, even before you have to think about editing or anything.
Yeah. So a lot of times when people hear the word or the term YouTube, they're thinking, yep, landscape videos, talking heads, that type of video. But from a social media standpoint, many people don't recognize how social YouTube is with the community feed and now shorts and all of that. What is a strategy that you're implementing? How do you strategically leverage YouTube?
Right now, one of the new strategies we're starting to do is tying in YouTube videos with blogs.
Mhm.
Again, getting ahead of this whole AI search is pretty paramount right now. We know that AI already really utilizes YouTube as a source of information,
Yeah.
and cross referencing, cross posting with blogs is another way to kind of strengthen that. When we do reels, obviously we're posting them across the platform. But the biggest, I guess, traditional social media use that I have is once I have that video, I will post it to LinkedIn. I will post it to Facebook. I will treat it almost as an Instagram post because it's just about utilizing all those different platforms to just try to make as much, valuable noise as possible to people. However, again, the new thing that we're starting to do right now, so much on a social media side of things, but on a discovery side of things, in terms of getting found by AI search, is to stack some of that content and stack different forms of content.
Yeah. So let's land the plane here a little bit. When you started this, I don't know if you had in mind a time frame that it would take to reach any level of success. But if you're thinking about a timeline, if somebody's asking you, "Hey, I'm looking to get started," what is the timeline that you might suggest to them that they need to really stick with it for in order to see some momentum or traction?
I think that's such a good question. It's so tough because, again, when I started out, we were in COVID. I would imagine in my opinion, there's a lot less competition for realtors on YouTube than there is on Instagram or TikTok, right? Like everybody and their brother puts reels out. I think, if you can stick at it for 8 months, maybe 6 months, you should at least start to get some reach outs. Again, you've got to work at it like anything. I think a very easy way to start is going to be driving tours. They require the least amount of editing and they're very popular. Like even non-realtors do them and they're very popular if people just driving around cities.
Yeah.
I think that once you get to another level, you are going to have to kind of put yourself on camera. It allows people to know who you are, gain that know, like, trust value. But I think if you started off with some driving tours, moved into neighborhood tours, did some house tours, then you're going to start to build a bit of a following. And again, it's very important that you be you. There's people that would find my channel that just wouldn't really think that I'm the realtor for them, but there's other people that really do think I'm the realtor for them. So you got to think of it like a blue ocean, and you just got to be you, and eventually you'll attract somebody that is into the same stuff as you and it's going to get along with you.
Love it. So you said 6 months or 8 months. What does that frequency look like? Is that once a week, twice a week, 3 times a month? What would you recommend?
I would say, once a week. I think I started off about twice a week, maybe for the first month or two. And then I started ramping it up to once a week. The tricky thing for most of your viewers is, and some people are going to be naturally just inclined like this, is going to be the editing side of things. Again, I have an offshore agent that helps me with that for, I think it's like $80 a video. And the ROI on that is just obviously it's way better when you're doing the videos than not doing the videos. So I would certainly look into one of those offshore video editing kind of whatever VA, whoever you're going with a VA. There's a whole ton of them. But, if the sooner you can bring an editor in, if that's not one of your skill sets, I think you're going to find pretty good value there.
I love it. So let's land the plane with this, man. If I'm just starting on YouTube and I know the basics, but I really want to get some momentum this week, what is one action that I absolutely need to take right now?
Get a car mount. So one of those things that you see, I mean, everybody has them, where you can just have the camera in front of you. Go into your car, film a little 20-second intro of yourself. I'd say, hey, I'm Tom Moore with the Living in Halifax channel. Today, we're going to be doing a driving tour of the South End. We're going to talk about what's being built, what the house prices are, some really cool hidden amenities that I'm going to tell you about. And then, go out there, pick a little route, literally drive around. People love it. Put it on widescreen. Don't really care too much about how it looks the first time. If the stand is in the screen, post it anyways, do your best. Like, it's important to just start, because once you post that first one, second you start getting a little traction, you're going to be automatically wanting to make it better. Or maybe you just keep doing the way you're doing. And if you're finding success, then it'll all work out.
I love it. I love it. Tom, where can people find out a little bit more about you?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Tom Moore Real Estate. The YouTube channel, as I mentioned, is called Living in Halifax. So if you're looking to get in contact with me, again, as I mentioned, my info is in the description below on all of my videos, or you can send me a DM on Instagram.
Love it. Thank you so much, my friend. Well, listen, everybody, here's the shift. Here's how this leaves us today. Your business isn't limited by geography. It's limited by how clearly and consistently you communicate. And Tom, speaking about YouTube today, showed us that you don't really need thousands of subscribers. What you need is intentional content, strategic positioning, and the discipline to stay visible long enough for the trust to compound. Whether you're in a major metro or in a smaller market, the opportunity isn't shrinking. It's really expanding globally through the digital media. So the question is, will you build for that expansion? Do me a favor, my friends. Don't just watch this episode. Replay it, rewind, take some notes, and then apply it. Because guess what? It's your turn to be iconic. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Icons of Real Estate. We'll see you on the next episode.